You kicked your husband out on the streets? I'm very uncomfortable all of a sudden. Happy apple picking day! I'm still playing around with lights. I made the mistake of moving them, and now I don't remember where I had them, and I can't get them to look as good as they did. But we will figure it out, eventually. Before we get started, a few reminders as usual for our new friends. If you want a chance for your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/AmITheBadApple. And as we all know, we all come from different branches of the apple tree. And what that means is that we all have lived different lives and have different experiences. And those experiences are going to shape our opinions and how we internalize things and how we hear things. The boundaries we have, those kinds of things. And you're not ever going to have the same exact match as someone else. It's just not gonna happen, ever. So we just keep that in mind as we discuss ideas down in the comments. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for using a power move over my sister? I, 20 female, have divorced parents. I still live with my mom and visit my dad's house from time to time. My dad remarried when I was 7, and I have 2 half-siblings, 7 female and 4 male. It was my birthday recently, and I came over to see my dad this weekend so I could celebrate with their family. I'm an artist, so I often bring my current sketchbook with me to stay overnight. With my sketchbook, I also bring my erasers, including a kneaded eraser, which from experience is not the easiest to find and can get pretty expensive. For anyone that doesn't know, these erasers are almost like putty, and they're used to lighten up pencil lines. My sister came into my room after getting into her pajamas and saw the eraser on top of my sketchbook that was all placed on my bed. She proceeded to grab it and started playing with it, and I'm very protective of my art supplies when it comes to my siblings since they're very young, so I politely asked her to stop and give it back. She did not listen. I asked her a total of 4 times before I just snatched it back. A little context. My dad and stepmom have told me that I'm not to parent my siblings, and if something needed to be handled, to tell one of them. So when my dad walked by, I asked him to talk to her about it because I didn't want my sister touching my eraser or any of my other things for that matter. My dad did take my concerns seriously, especially since I asked her multiple times and she blatantly ignored me, so it was handled, thank goodness. The reason I'm worried about being the bad apple is because I just overheard a conversation between my dad and my stepmom. My stepmom is blaming me for the situation, calling it a power move, and that I should have just put it away. I don't think that's fair, as I was prepared to use my eraser with my sketchbook before my sister took it. And it wasn't a power move, I was just following the rules that they put in place. I didn't even yell at her. I was very polite other than the snatching, which I believe was at least a little justified. So, am I the bad apple for wanting to protect my stuff? No, what? Okay. I get really happy when I see like really happy blended families because there's too many times where I receive stories where it's very obvious that new spouse is very jealous of previous family. She has this own like power struggle and has these own insecurities, and she kind of projects it onto the situation. Like for her to call this a power move is weird. Like what do you mean what part of it is a power move? Following the rules that you put in place, telling her to stop living her life under your roof, like what part of it is a power move? Personally, I think sitting down a 20-year-old and saying, don't parent your siblings when they're doing something wrong, I personally find that weird. She's 20 years old. It's not like she's 17 and just like having a temper tantrum, you know what I mean? Or 14 and having a temper tantrum. She's 20 years old. She's an adult. I feel like she should be able to like tell a small child, don't do that, don't touch my stuff, we don't do those things. Y'all parents can let me know, but I feel like that's reasonable. I feel like it's weird they put that hard boundary on her at 20, but okay. Like, she's 20 years old. She shouldn't have to go and like get mommy and daddy to handle all her battles. Like now, should the small child's parents come and discipline her and teach her right from wrong? Yes, but like you guys, you know what I mean. Like it feels weird, you know? Maybe that's just me, maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I'm naive to this kind of dynamic, I don't know. Like what else did the stepmom want her to do? Like let her mess up her art stuff? Oh, well, she should have just put it away. Is she not allowed to partake in her hobbies while she's there? Like why can your 7-year-old not understand boundaries? Like 7's a young age, but at 7 you should be able to teach your kid, hey, don't go and play with other people's things, right? Am I crazy? I didn't do the little kids, I did the big kids. So like they came to me at 14. Is 7 too young to understand that? I might be ignorant to that, I don't know. But I feel like if she's not old enough to understand that, then like, again, why is it wrong for the person in the moment to redirect her? Well, how is that a power move? Like, I'm just not understanding. I personally, in that situation, would just make it clear to dad and stepmom, because like it's great that dad like took you seriously in that moment and like stood up for you, but I want to see that same energy held when like in that conversation with stepmom. I would make it very clear to both of them, hey, I'm an adult and I have my own hobbies. These are things that I like to do, and if I'm not allowed to like keep my stuff mine, and I'm not allowed to make sure my stuff doesn't get messed up, if my siblings, like if your kids are not going to listen when I say please don't touch my things, and I'm not allowed to react and protect my expensive things, I'm just not gonna come visit. I'm not gonna do, like that would be my choice personally. If you're not going to respect me and my stuff, why am I coming here? Like she's there for her birthday. Happy birthday, let my kid mess up your expensive art supplies. Like right? Like I just feel like it feels silly. I'm not a fan of that. So yeah, I'm going good apple. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for mom shaming my daughter's friend's mom? My daughter is 14 years old and has a friend named Chloe. She and Chloe have been friends for a little over a year now. Chloe's mom, Gina, is someone I'd consider pretty strict. I was aware she'd check Chloe's phone, and I know a lot of parents do this, but I found out a few months ago through my daughter that she'd respond through Chloe's phone to Chloe's friends, including my daughter. It was never anything overkill, just, Chloe can't talk right now. She's busy with homework. Stop texting her. Like, those things. I thought it was odd, but didn't say anything to Gina, because that's her life and her business. Well, I got a call from Gina earlier this afternoon. She was pissed and told me that my daughter was so rude and that I needed to start monitoring the things that she says in texts. I asked her what exactly happened, and she said that my daughter gave her an attitude via text message. I was still very confused and asked why the two of them were texting. Gina had enough of my questions and snapped at me and said, through Chloe's phone. I told her I'd call her back and asked my daughter exactly what happened. My daughter willingly showed me her text messages. She texted Chloe something, and then Gina responded using Chloe's phone, saying Chloe was busy. My daughter replied asking when Chloe would be available to talk, and Gina told her, when she's ready, stop texting her. My daughter replied to Gina and said, you don't have to be so rude. Gina responded that she wasn't being rude, and my daughter said yes she was and called her a weirdo for using Chloe's phone. I told my daughter next time, just don't engage. And I did also say that it wasn't kind to call someone a weirdo and not to do it again, but that I also understood her frustration. I didn't punish her. She seemed receptive to the talk she and I had, so I left it at that. I called Gina back and I told her that I'd spoken to my daughter and I handled the problem. Gina then started ranting and lecturing me about how I needed to monitor my daughter's phone and have I seen some of the things that she talks about? She started talking about my daughter's crushes, rants about the teachers that my daughters had, saying there are times that my daughter badmouthed me when she was frustrated. I said that's all fine. I'd rather my daughter have a safe space to vent with her friends. I mean, after all, she's a teenager. Gina kept pressing on the issue about what's gonna be done, and I told her nothing. I spoke to my daughter and I handled it. But Gina said, but she insulted an adult! I told her I handled it. But my daughter also didn't say anything that wasn't true, because Gina was acting like a weirdo. Well, now Gina's angry with me. My daughter doesn't care that I said any of this. However, my husband thinks that I shouldn't have said anything as it doesn't solve anything. And Gina can parent how she wants. I said I never commented on Gina's parenting until she tried to undermine mine and insult mine. So, am I the bad apple? Oh, I have so many thoughts on this. I have so many thoughts. No, you're not the bad apple. I'm a good apple. For sure. Like, absolutely. Here's the thing. Remember, I don't have kids, okay? But there's a fine line between being healthily protective parent and a weirdo psycho control freak, okay? Because here's the thing. I think it is responsible to monitor what your kids are doing to look for like the crazy, dangerous, or illegal, or like harmful things. 100%. Absolutely. 100%. But to sit there and snoop on what other kids are talking about, like their crushes and how angry they are with their teachers, like that's a breach of privacy. Like at that point, Gina has no right to snoop on the personal life of someone else's child. And yet I know someone in the comment section is gonna be like, I'm a parent and my kid's phone is for my convenience and not theirs. And it's technically my phone because I pay for it, blah, 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 blah. Stop talking. I don't care about anything that you just said. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't give you the right to snoop on someone else's minor child. It doesn't matter. Crazy enough, in a lot of places, did you know it's illegal to record a conversation if both parties are not either aware or consenting? It's illegal to bug an area to like eavesdrop on someone's conversation. Like, I don't know the exact law on if you bug your own house to listen to other people's conversations, but I do know that like phone calls, it doesn't matter if it's your house. It doesn't matter if it's your phone. It doesn't matter. You cannot like record a conversation when at least one party isn't consenting or made aware. And I know that this is not the same thing. I understand that. I understand that it's text messages. I understand that they're minors. I'm more talking about like the morals of it. Like, think about it. If it's considered so immoral in some places to sit there and record conversations, which I just want to point out there that my state is not like that. My state is a one-party state. I think that's smart for like abuse situations. You know, if you've got someone yelling at you on the phone and you want to record how they act when other people aren't around listening, I think that's smart. Just me personally. But we're talking about minor kids, 14-year-olds, talking about their personal lives, talking about the boys that they have crushes on, talking about how their mom was annoying them that day. Like, there was a saying, I don't know if it's still popular or not, but the strictest parents create the sneakiest kids, truly. And the more you grip in an obsessive, not responsible way, the more you're gonna isolate your kid. Like, first of all, think about how many of Chloe's friends are not gonna feel comfortable talking to her if they know that her mother is not only sitting there listening to all their conversations or reading all their conversations, but going back and telling their own parents what they're saying, who their crushes are, what they're saying about their parents, what they're saying about their teachers. Chloe's not gonna have any friends. Like, every teenager is gonna get mad at their parents and vent about them. Every teenager is gonna talk about a cute boy they see at school. Every teenager, have I been saying teenager or teacher? I'm worried, it's real late. Every teenager is gonna talk about a teacher annoying them. Like, these are all normal things. These are not the red flaggy behaviors that you need to be on the lookout for. These are not the, oh, I'm sneaking out at 3 a.m. to go do drugs in the park by myself at 13. I didn't do that. I need that to be clear. I genuinely just like came up with something random. I was not talking from experience. I need everybody to be aware of that. I was a really good kid. My mom used to say that I didn't know it was possible to break rules until my brother came along. That is correct, by the way. Anyways, like, these are very innocent things that are going to ultimately isolate Chloe from all of her friends. It's also like, it's a genuine breach of privacy for Chloe's friends. Again, I think there's definitely a line between being a responsible parent and checking to make sure your kids aren't getting into really dangerous situations and breaching the privacy of these kids who are just talking about their feelings and did not consent for you to be a part of those conversations. And it's one thing to like check and monitor. It's another thing to use the vulnerable conversations you accidentally stumbled upon in trying to be responsible and monitor against these kids and to their parents. It's not as if this girl was doing anything that was actually concerning that her parents needed to know about. You know what I mean? And like this is the kind of helicopter mom, lawnmower parent that she's either got to get it together or Chloe's going to have no friends or she's going to grow to resent her mom and she's not going to talk to her in so many years. Like this is weird. She's being a weirdo. Gina's being weird. And I feel like a lot of times grown men are like, just leave it alone, like just don't argue with her, blah 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 blah. But no, sometimes things need to be said. And I stand by this one personally. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for teaching my kids self-defense? I, 42 female, just had a huge blow-up fight with my ex-husband, and I want to know if I was wrong. Me and my ex-husband, Matt, 42 male, were married for 9 years after our son, Dakota, who is 9, was born. Matt had an affair with a coworker, and he left us to be with his coworker and her daughter, 13 female. Ever since then, it's just been a mess. Recently, it's been a much bigger issue. My son lately keeps coming home from his dad's house to cuts and bruises, and I called my ex-husband about it, and apparently, my son's stepsister's been beating him up and bullying him, and my husband just calls it sibling rivalry. But my son told me he's asked his sister, or stepsister, multiple times to stop, and she never does. So, I decided to teach my son some self-defense lessons and teach him it's okay to stand your ground and stand up for yourself. So when my ex-husband called about wanting our son to go to his stepsister's birthday party, I was very hesitant, but my son reassured me that he would be fine. So I let him go, and not even a few hours later, my ex-husband returned with our son and the new wife and the stepsister who was crying. That's when my ex-husband showed me a video that was taken. Apparently, in the video, my son's stepsister is beating him up, and he's telling her to stop. But everybody around them, including my ex-husband, are laughing and telling him to toughen up. It's just a girl. So in the video, my son, in a self-defense move that I taught him, punched his stepsister right in the face, and that's when everyone stopped. Everyone had to stop the fight then. I told my ex, yeah, I taught him some self-defense, and then my ex got mad at me, saying that's bullying, and I'm teaching my son to be violent. I said, where was this energy when our son's being bullied? He had the audacity to say, well, she's a girl, so it's automatically not okay for him to put hands on her. I said bullying isn't okay regardless. And the fact that you told our son to toughen up and now he did and you're upset? No! I took my son inside and just closed the door. Well, now my ex is refusing to see our son and is refusing to call him, and I told my friends and they're appalled with me, and some even quit talking to me. My family is even saying that my son should have handled it peacefully and that I shouldn't have shown him those self-defense moves, but now I'm wondering, was I the bad apple? Okay, I want to be very clear about something. Very, very clear. I'm never, ever, ever going to tell, especially a child, I'm never going to tell a child that if someone is hurting them or bullying them, that they should just take it and deal with it and whatever. No, absolutely not. If someone is physically hurting them, they absolutely should defend themselves. I'm not saying violence is the answer. I'm just saying. Violence is never the answer, kids. I'm never gonna shed a tear for a bully who might get hit in the face. I'm just not gonna do it. But I also want to be clear. There is a difference between self-defense and just going up and hitting somebody in the face. Like, I'm never gonna say, oh, that guy punched me yesterday, so I think it's totally fine for me to go up and punch him today. Like, that's just not my vibe. Like, if you're trying to get away and you, like, accidentally hit someone in the process, I'm not gonna say that I'm, like, oh, so sorry. But I do think that saying, oh, well, I taught him a self-defense move. The self-defense move was him punching her in the face. That's not a self-defense move. Like, let's just be clear about that. We can be on the same page and we can have opinions on whether or not you think it's okay to hit your bully in the face or not. But let's be clear. A move where you go and just strike someone in the face, that's not a self-defense move. It's not. And I'm not saying that I think that you were wrong to do that, but like, let's call a spade, you know? We're not having a conversation of whether or not we think it's okay that you taught your son self-defense. Of course, it's always going to be a good idea to teach someone self-defense when they're getting picked on, always. That's not what was taught to him from this description. What was taught to him is offensive moves, and that's a completely different conversation. And what I will say about that conversation is that I will never say it's not okay to teach someone how to protect themselves and how to take care of themselves if need be. I mean, my brother has 3 black belts, 1 in Taekwondo and 2 in Hapkido. Telling someone, how dare you taught your kid how to throw a punch, like that's like saying, how dare you sign your kid up for karate. Like, no, that's fine, you can do whatever. But as someone very wise in the Marvel Universe once said, is that with great power comes great responsibility. And if you're going to teach your children those kinds of things, you have to teach them the discipline that goes with it. You have to teach them the where and the when. You have to teach them the appropriateness. And I'm not saying that it's not appropriate to, like, in the scuffle of trying to defend yourself from a bully, it's not appropriate to hit them on accident. I'm really getting the vibes that, like, oh, well, it was self-defense. I don't know a lot of adults, especially adult women, who would hear, my son defended himself and my friends decided to stop talking to me. Something just feels off, and I feel like there was more offensiveness and aggression. And I don't know to what extent, so like I'm having trouble deciding like, oh yeah, that's fine, or it's not. I can't say because I don't know what it looks like. What I do think, again, is that it's always a good idea to teach your kids self-defense. Anyone really should learn self-defense. I think that if your son is coming home with scrapes and bruises, cuts and bruises, that you need to document that and you need to take it to the judge and like get your ex-husband's custody taken away. That shouldn't be happening. Your son should never have to go into that kind of situation, ever. Like, for sure, get that taken care of. I don't necessarily agree with the idea of like, if someone's sister is literally beating someone up, beating her brother up and is giving them bruises and cuts, that like, oh, he hit her back once, how dare, he's the worst kid in the world. Let me tell you something. My brother loves this story. I'm obviously older, and so there's this, one of my best friends, Anna, like she's the closest thing I have to a sister. We all grew up together, right? Our parents met when we were like 3 or 4. We've grown up together since then. She's the one that's been my best friend for 20 years. That's why, because we were itty bitties. And Anna and I, oh, when we were kids, we would torment Ethan, man. So many stories, so many. But the reason why Ethan got enrolled into Taekwondo in the first place is because of me and Anna. We were 10. We didn't like hit him or anything. We would just tie him up with jump ropes and put makeup on him because we were 10. And mean, I'm so sorry, Ethan. And so my mom enrolled Ethan in karate. And the next time I tried to do that to him, he, right in the stomach, it completely knocked like the air out of my stomach. And I went down. I was down for the count, man. I was. And I never tried that again. So I want to be clear about my experiences, because I'm not saying this kid is bad if he did. I'm not saying that. Because sometimes the older sisters need it, okay? Sometimes we do. I'm saying that based on other people's reaction, I'm hesitant what you're calling self-defense. Because I've seen, as a teacher, oh, I was just defending myself. No, you were not. Let's call a spade a spade. I'll go crabapple. Because I have a feeling that what you're teaching your son is self-defense might not be as much, at least from your own description. Like, oh, well, I taught him a self-defense move and he punched her in the face. That to me feels like what you're portraying to your son as self-defense is not necessarily self-defense. So the idea of teaching him self-defense is a good thing. What discipline around it you're teaching, I think is getting misconstrued or is not being delivered properly. So that's why I'm gonna go crabapple. I don't wanna assume too much. So we're just gonna go crabapple on that one. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for putting my husband out on the streets? My husband and I have been together for a decade. We had a huge fight that led to him leaving for a few days, missing our anniversary completely, and straight up telling me that he wasn't interested in being my partner anymore. I was devastated, and this was not a fight that I could just move past. He showed back up at the house in the middle of the work week, expecting that I'd just drop everything to talk to him about it, but I had to work. I work from home, and it was making it pretty impossible for me to get any work done. And I was already behind from the devastation I was experiencing when he was gone. I told him that due to the fight and due to the fact that he was further impeding me from getting my work done, he needed to leave. I later decided that this marriage was not going to work out as he refused to grasp how serious this issue was. Months of pleading with him to hear me out, and he just kept chalking it up to typical marital problems, and everyone goes through this and just gets over it, so why can't you? No, missing your anniversary is not typical, but whatever. Anyways, now we're in divorce proceedings, and he's all of a sudden freaking out that I kicked him out onto the streets and locked up all of our assets from him, leaving him with nothing, and I'm the one who should have left the house since I had the means to. Let me give you a little context. My husband was very successful, and during his success, I started a small business. This business really took off and has done extremely well, which I'm very fortunate for. My husband has since decided that his career was way too stressful and wanted to find his dream job like I had, so I said that I would support us until he did. Took him about a year for him to finally get a job as a tennis instructor, which was fine. I was making plenty of money for us to live comfortably, and if he's happy, I'm happy. I was able to buy our house on just my salary before he even found this tennis job. I paid the down payment, the closing costs, I paid the mortgage, and when I kicked him out, he refused to tell his friends or family what happened out of embarrassment, so he went to stay with my brother for a little while. That means he paid no bills, no rent, he was fed. He also apparently lied about how much he was making as a tennis instructor. When I kicked him out, he told me he had 15 grand saved up in his accounts, but apparently that wasn't the case. As if I was just supposed to magically know that. I should also note that early on, he decided to give me everything early on in this whole process because he was convinced that he could convince me to come back and didn't think any of it would matter. And now he's really feeling that decision. Well, now he's on a rampage about how I'm the worst person in the world because I'm the one who had family closer to us and I'm the one that should have left the house and I didn't give it to him when he was in need and I left him without any assets at all. I honestly think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I paid every penny for this house. I do my job in this house. Why would I just give it to the guy? But part of me is worried that I'm just being bitter or spiteful or that I'm missing something and missing some empathy that I would normally have for others if it was a third party and I wasn't directly involved. So, am I the bad apple? Oh, it just gives me anxiety. So, okay, let me get this straight. Whatever you were fighting about, he was like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And then he left. He left. He comes back. You don't want him there. And he refuses to get help from his support system. Like just blatantly refuses. Doesn't want them to know what's happening. Gets help from your support system. Tells you he has all this money. And then it's later your fault that he didn't have support. And it's your fault that he didn't have money that he said that he had. What I'm learning from my own divorce process is that every state works differently. I don't know how it works in every single state. But how it works here is that we have to be, any couple that is getting divorced has to be separated, living separately for a year and a day. They can either decide to go about the splitting of assets on their own in a separation agreement, or they can let the state do it when they file for divorce and just like split everything. So I don't know how their process works, but it sounds, whether it was through lawyers or whatever, it sounds like you have documentation or like legal documentation saying like, hey, you get everything. My love, look at how nice of a guy I am. And then when that didn't work, he was like, that was a bad choice. I don't love that. I can't imagine why, if he's refusing the help of his support system, insisting he has his own money, and saying whatever of like, I don't want any of this, this is yours. I can't imagine how all of a sudden the next day it would make sense to say, oh my God, you took me seriously? How dare you? You believed me? I hate you. You're a terrible person. You believed all the lies that I told you. Nah, and I didn't want to use the help, so I used your help, and now it's not fair because I didn't have my own help. Like, what? Like, what? Twilight, what? That, like, hurts my brain thinking about it. Here's the thing. When people lie about their realities, when people lie about what they have going for them, it's never your fault that they lied. Like, if that's not the case, it's not your fault that you acted according to what they lied to you about, to their lies. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I'm missing something, because as y'all know, I'm going through my own things, but that makes no sense to me. So I'm going good apple, but I'm going to be honest, I could be missing some things personally. I'm actually really looking forward to hearing your responses on this one. This will be very interesting. All right, so I got 1 crab apple and 3 bad apples. At least that's what I got. I want to know if you guys got anything similar to me or different. I am going to be very excited to hear down in the comments. And as a reminder, if you want a chance for your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. And if you're a lights person, like, what am I doing wrong? I need help. I don't know what I did to make them look so good before. I can't get it back. Get it together. Get it together. You're a professional. I'm not. It's not. And for your well wishes today, it is National Medal of Honor Day. It is National Tolkien Reading Day. National Lobster Newburgh Day. I think that's a dish. That looks delicious. And National Equal Pay Day. We got a lot of good choices. If you're a bookworm, I'm a bookworm. There's so many things that I actually love now that I think about it. A lot of things to celebrate. I want to celebrate all of them. Oh, I just gave myself a migraine pushing right there. Oh, that's painful. Okay, now I gotta go before it gets worse. Oh no. Let me know down. I know I can't talk. Let me know down in the comments which one you're celebrating. Oh, it hurts. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope to see y'all next week. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. I said that backwards. It's fine. Bye, my lovelies.